The images yesterday evoking thoughts of the Great Depression are being repeated this morning, with tens of thousands of people around the nation affected by the coronavirus shutdown lining up for help. The government is insisting people do not have to actually go into Centrelink offices, but they're turning up still, maybe sceptical after that online site that was supposed to be processing their applications yesterday crashed. There are many other developments with this coronavirus story today. We're keeping across all of them, so let's run through them now. So we've got those long queues outside Centrelink offices once again, people trying to get welfare. The government is expecting up to 1 million people will be in need of financial lifeline, but the new payments won't reach people's wallets until April the 27th. Federal Parliament passed that multi-billion-dollar stimulus package overnight, with the Treasurer calling it the most significant support for the Australian economy in peacetime. $84 billion worth of assistance was rushed through Parliament in a single day. The UK is following Germany in banning gatherings of more than 2 people in public. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says under new movement restrictions, all weddings are now cancelled, and has urged people to stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Italy is entering an even tougher phase of lockdown as the government clamps down on travel and businesses to try to contain infections. There were more than 600 deaths just in the past day, but the rate of new infections appears to be dropping there for the first time. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization is warning that the coronavirus pandemic is accelerating, with more than 300,000 cases now confirmed. It took 67 days from the first reported case of COVID-19 to reach 100,000 cases, 11 days for the second, and just 4 days for the third 100,000. And we might just take a look at the Hopkins University COVID map. This is kind of the authoritative site. It seems to be more up to date than the World Health Organization site. It seems to get figures in more quickly. And so, yeah, just in the last hour or so, there's been 1,000 or so more cases. So 375 now cases confirmed worldwide. Total deaths, 16,371. People recovered, people who've had the coronavirus but have recovered, now up above 100,000. So that's some optimism there, and that good news that Italy's case numbers seem to be decreasing. That's a new confirmed cases. In Australia, the numbers are about 2,000 cases. That it'll pass that mark over the next 4 or 5 hours or so, and 7 deaths so far. Political reporter Stepanie Borys joins us now from Parliament House in Canberra. Steph, g'day. So aside from the huge lines outside Centrelink offices, the MyGov website also crashed yesterday. What's been the government messaging around this today? And again, as we've seen, so many people who've been affected by this coronavirus shutdown turning up to Centrelink offices today seeking support.
Well, Joe, to give you an indication as to how many people are trying to get online, the government says that early yesterday morning there are about 98,000 people on the MyGov website. Now, for those not familiar with the MyGov website, it's the site you go through in order to be able to receive Centrelink payments and to fill out all your details and, of course, those essential forms so that you can get support. Now, in comparison, on a normal day, there's usually about 6,000 people on the site, so an incredible jump. Now, yesterday we heard from the Minister for Government Services, Stuart Robert, who suggested that the website was hit by a denial of service cyber attack. However, today he's conceded he jumped the gun. There was no cyber attack. It was simply because there were so many Australians in need of support trying to log on to MyGov. And speaking on Sydney radio station 2GB this morning, Stuart Robert says the site just simply wasn't able to handle the demand because they didn't predict the scale.
We normally get about 6,000 concurrent users. We've prepared over the weekend for 55,000, so a 1,000% increase. I didn't think I'd have to prepare for 100,000 concurrent users. Again, my bad not realising that the sheer scale of the decision on Sunday night by the national leaders that literally saw hundreds and hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million people unemployed overnight.
So, Steph, what guarantees are officials giving that this system will improve? Because the coalition government over the years has been so critical about what happened during the GFC with how the Labor approached offering services to people and dealing with the GFC. Now we're in the middle of this crisis. The government has said one of its principles is to use existing delivery mechanisms, suggesting that that would be a much more effective way of doing things. In the last 24 hours, we've seen there are big problems with that as well. So what guarantees is the government giving now that these delivery of services in these really tough times will improve?
The government insists it's doing everything it can to try and help, but obviously, Joe, we are seeing those images outside Centrelink offices and we're seeing these figures as to how many people are going on the website, and the question is, can they keep up with demand? Now, I'd like to also point out, with the number of people lining up at the Centrelink offices, the government says they aren't actually putting on as many staff in those offices due to the social distancing requirements. So more of those staff are then on the phones instead of being in the stores. Now, Stuart Robert was asked, what happens if you try and go on the website today and it doesn't work? He said, just go on tonight, try later. That is the advice being issued today. Now, the Social Services Minister, Anne Ruston, has been speaking on News Breakfast today, and she says that they're hopeful that the online system will be able to sustain the demand, but she's pleaded with Australians that don't need to go on the website today to hold off to ensure that others can get on and start lodging their claims.
We're asking the Australian public, if you don't need to go onto the MyGov website, so for instance, if you're already on payment, you don't need to contact Centrelink, the payments will automatically turn up into your bank account. So we'd be asking you perhaps not to contact or to use the Centrelink services for the next few days. The day that you actually start your application with Centrelink will be the day from which you'll be eligible to receive your payment. So we'd be asking the Australian public for calm, because we need to make sure these services are open for those people who really are in the most desperate need for them.
And Steph, changes have been made to the welfare process. What do they include?
So there's what's called a customer reference number. There would be many people that don't even know that this exists because they've never had to access welfare until now. Now, in order to get one of these reference numbers, you usually do have to go into a Centrelink office, but that has now been changed. You can call Centrelink instead of needing to line up. Also, the application forms, it's now reduced to one page, so there aren't as many questions for people to go through. The waiting times have been waived as a result of the unprecedented times we're in, and also the call centre opening times have been extended from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m.
And take us through the key elements of this $84 billion package that was passed through Parliament last night.
Yeah, late last night, Joe, more than $84 billion of support measures, a big focus on individuals who will either lose their job or lose a significant amount of their wage. So the government has promised and will now boost what's known as the job seeker payment. This used to be known as the New Start allowance. So it's effectively doubling $550 extra a fortnight. At the moment, there's about 700,000 people on that payment, though they are people that are looking for work. The government predicts an extra 1 million people will need to go on to this payment. So 1 million people out of work and looking for a job on top of the 700,000 already on it. Also last night, news that payment, the job seeker payment, and that extra amount of cash, the $550 a fortnight, it will also now be provided to youth allowance recipients and those on AB Study and Oz Study. That wasn't initially planned, but that is now in place. And also business side of it, there are cash payments for businesses, wage subsidies on offer. There is a lot to take in, Joe. A lot of the details are on the ABC website for people to go through bit by bit as well.
Okay, Stepanie Borys reporting there from Canberra.